And here we go. Spawning in the bottom left-hand corner of 2000 Atmospheres LE, we have the Peruvian Protoss player. He is red, representing his own clan. Oh boy, he just took down sub. It is Tiratuga. And spawning in the top right-hand corner of 2000 Atmospheres LE, we have... Oh no! Don't do it, Ryu. Don't feed into the narrative. We have the Peruvian Zerg player representing the CranKy Ducklings, one of the best teams out there. It is Ryu, the Street Fighter himself. He is back after a long hiatus. Over the course of January, he was on holiday with his family, so he wasn't active in these weekly tournaments, but he has returned. He is, again, shaking off all of that rust, getting his skill back, getting ready for EPT once it comes back around, and kind of testing his mettle in these weekly tournaments. Ryu usually is one of the favorites to win Copa Hyperion, but again, I don't know how much practice he's really been putting in. I don't know what his level is at right now compared to what it was at the end of 2021. We are here to find out. You know, we all saw how Jim did last week. I love you, Jim. I love you. Meanwhile, so far, so good. If you're tuning in and if you're unfamiliar with Ryu and his style, for a long time, for almost all of 2020, he was known as the Lurker King of Latin America. He would always go Hydra Lurker Viper in almost every single matchup. He would get there eventually in ZvZ. Obviously, ZvZ is a little bit different, but specifically in this matchup and even in ZvT, he would always go Lurkers. Of course, times change, metas change, Sky Toss became more prevalent, and as a result, Ryu embraced the late game. In a positive and a negative way. Even on some very questionable maps, he would kind of embrace that late game, just focus a lot more on macro and go up against a 200 supply Sky Toss army. And honestly, because he did it so often, like his control, like with late game Zerg, with Broodlord, Corruptor, Hydra Lurker Viper, Infestor, like depending on what composition he goes for, like it's solid. It's probably the best in Latin America, even better than Chan. But obviously it's also difficult because Sky Toss is pretty good. You can control well, but like it's still very risky to pull off. You have to make sure you're on point with your control. You have to make sure you're very aware of the map, the positioning of your opponent's army. And on top of that, things don't always go that straightforward. Because of that, Ryu is honestly kind of weak in the mid game. When it comes to Glaive Adepts, he can struggle against Glaive Adepts sometimes. When it comes to earlier pushes with like Void Rays and Charge Lots, you know, around like the 9-minute mark, like before you get to that carrier part of the game. That is where arguably Ryu is at his weakest. So yeah, we'll see. We'll see how he does here in this ZvP. Oh boy. As so far, we do see a Stargate opener. What's interesting about this is that obviously he went Oracle first, but even after the first Oracle, we don't see a Void Ray. It's double Oracle coming out from Tiratuga. That's honestly something we don't see too often. Is he gonna go triple Oracle? Is he gonna go even further and go quadruple Oracle, which Zest did recently in Super Tournament? Which I don't think was a very good thing to do. Like, Zest going quadruple Oracle, just because he did it doesn't mean it was a good thing. But we'll see. We'll see what he goes for. As yep, it is going to be at least 3 Oracles in total. Oh boy. With 3 Oracles, you can ignore Spores, you can even hunt down Queens, and then you can definitely catch a Mineral Line unawares. Meanwhile, Ryu does have a Spore, but only a single Spore and a single Queen. Like, you have to respect these Oracles. Oh, the rest of the Queens are in position though. A decent target fire. Oh, you got the Oracle! Oh god! 1 Oracle gets picked off. 1 Oracle for 6 drones. Still a good trade for the Protoss. But what's important is that does take away a lot of the momentum. ideally, Tiratuga keeps all 3 alive, and then he goes in, and then he snipes queens. Like, then he slowly starts to overwhelm the defenses of the Zerg player. But now that option isn't available to him, and Tiratuga opted not to go for a 4th Oracle. So now he's only stuck with 2. And with 2, they are still a threat, they can still deal a lot of damage, but nowhere near as much as 3 would have. So very nice target fire there by Ryu. Again, still lost 6 drones, which was less than ideal, but you're going to lose drones because of how many oracles there are anyway. Meanwhile, he's not done. We do have a couple of adepts. Oh god! To have a couple of adepts head towards the natural base, but we do see a bit of a pause. Hopefully everything is okay. Oof. Maybe some Uber Eats at the door. I know it's a little bit late in Latin America. It's getting towards the afternoon. Oh god. Shaking my head. Alright, hold on. He's ready.
Game resumed.
Beautiful. Diving back in. Bit of a translation. Tiratuga was like, pause, sorry. Something got into my eye. So a bit of dust in his eye. It's okay. He got rid of it. Hopefully it wasn't too serious. Meanwhile, the Adepts are diving into the mineral line. Decent pull away here by Ryu. The Adepts are still alive, but again, they honestly haven't dealt too much damage. Only 2 drones have gone down. Uh-oh. Oh, but the Adepts do get into the natural base as well. There are links to respond, and again, Ryu has responded decently well, and actually the Oracles pull away. Interesting. I thought like the Adepts would force all these drones off of a mineral line, and then boom, the Oracles dive in and clean up. But Tiratuga opted to back off instead, and these Adepts are getting cleaned up. So after all is done, Ryu honestly defended pretty well. He lost 6 drones to the Oracles earlier, and he only lost 2 drones to all those Adepts. Bearing in mind that they were glaive-less Adepts, there was no Twilight Council investment into them. They were just thrown in to harass, but they didn't end up paying for themselves. So far so good. Ryu, now he's getting his 4th up and running. He is working on his upgrades, and he did opt to throw down that Hydra Den. So Roach Hydra is going to be his composition of choice. Meanwhile, Tiratuga, again, only a single Stargate. He's going for Ground Toss. I'm a little bit surprised, you know. Sky Toss is popular for a reason. Like, it just scales so well into the late game. It can be very difficult to deal with. But maybe Tiratuga knows who he is up against. Again, Ryu, he's honestly one of the best against Sky Toss in this region specifically. So do you really want to be going Void Rays and Carriers and Disruptors against him? I don't know if you do. So instead, Tiratuga, he's here, he's across the map. Charge is not done. What? The Twilight Council. There's 2 Twilight Councils on the way. I think he forgot his Twilight Council. No! Slow lots? Question mark? Oh no. I mean, the Zealots are getting a decent surround on some of these queens, but they will eventually be cleaned up. There is one Immortal in the center of all this. Ooh, I love this. We do see a stasis trap in the middle of the army. But is this really going to be enough? We have 18 Lings in production. Decent force fields. Boys are being forced off the line. Mate, who needs charge? Oh god, the stasis goes off as well. He's doing it. The entire mineral line goes down. But the Lings are coming in, the Roaches are coming in, we see a full surround, and there may just be too much Zerg. The Immortal, no! The Immortal even gets picked off. The War Prism wasn't in range to pick it up to save it. And despite the stasis, oh my god, despite all of this, the Protoss just doesn't have enough nice target fire on that War Prism. It barely gets sniped. And Ryu will defend. And sure, he lost 15 drones, but he's still ahead in workers, or even in workers. And what does Tiratuga have? Finally, he's getting charged. Again, I feel like this was a bit of a mistake. Oh god, a little bit of an awkward mistake there. Maybe the fight would have turned out differently if he did have charge. But I'm just worried because the Immortal count was reset. The War Prism was sniped earlier as well. There's not a lot protecting this Colossus. Oh, he's going right for it! No, the Colossus! Oh, it barely manages to survive. We do have a shield battery, we do have overcharge to keep it alive, and there are not enough roaches here. That was close. Speaking of being close, Ryu is, mate, he's popping off. He hasn't had enough, mate. He keeps going. Roaches are going all the way into the main base. Could even snipe some tech at the same time. The Roach Ravager does hit the natural. This should be cleaned up. This is a little bit worrisome. Again, the Colossus is looking a little bit exposed. But with this recall, it looks like Tiratuga will be able to defend his main. Oh. And with that, Tiratuga, he's slowly stabilizing. Obviously, he's still not there yet. The Dropper Lords are still a major threat. They hit the 4th base. The rest of the army is forced to respond. What's important is that recall was just used, so Tiratuga has to be very careful with how he maneuvers his army, especially because we were talking about it. Roach Hydra. The Hydras are finally here. No! The random rally! Protoss, please! Get out of here! He can't even recall! Oh no. You can't afford to lose Colossus like this, not like this. Get away! F's in the chat. And we were looking at that push earlier from Tiratuga and how he almost broke Ryu. Bearing in mind, Ryu at that point was working on Hydra upgrades. He was working on a 4th base. Like, he was being relatively greedy. He wasn't building an army until the Protoss was in his face. And now he's gotten away with all that greed, all that tech. Now he has now he has lurkers. He has a hive. He's working on his lurker upgrades. Like, he's getting to that Hydra lurker Viper. Obviously, he's still missing his Vipers. But like, a ground army can't break this. There's just no way. Look how many lurkers there are. There's 12. And this is where you need to embrace the Skytoss. This is where, as a Protoss, you look at this and you'd be like, okay, let's throw down some Stargates. Let's throw down a Fleet Beacon. Like, you can't just brute force your way through this. Maybe you can back off, defend, and take another base and utilize like that Turtle Protoss style to tech up. But pushing forward like this is just not going to work out. As we do see a lot of gateway units being shaved off. 3 Vipers are in production. Groove Spine's in production as well. I mean, the economy is still looking pretty good from Tiratuga, not gonna lie. But he is just lacking in substance, in just sheer numbers. Oh no, not again. Not again! Not again! Disrupt! Okay, the Disruptor turns around, thank God. But almost all the sentries get caught out. And sure, now he's got a couple of disruptors. Sure, he diversified his AoE. That's great and all, but this is still not going to be enough to break all of these lurkers. He's going for a bit of a run by. You know, the Zealots are going to get work done. They're going to pick up a couple of Queens here and there. They force Ryu to respond and turn around with the rest of his ground army. At the same time, a Warp Prism tries to sneak in, but as the Warp Prism tried to sneak in, Roaches also got in. And oh no! Tiratuga tries to push through the center of the map. Oh my God, Ryu. He's playing with fire right now. He wants the disruptor. He wants it. Oh, okay. Jesus Christ. Ryu, please. You gotta respect the disruptors, mate. You gotta respect them. Oh, not when you have Vipers, though. Oh, immediately the disruptors evaporate. The Colossus get yoinked. Ay, ay, ay. Even throws down a blinding cloud for good measure. This 3rd base is forfeit. Sure, there's a War Prism to maybe try and backstab. Sure, we've got a Zealot run-by going on, but there is still no answer to this main army. Oh God! Again, we have plenty of energy. Like, we can yoink for days, mate. We can yoink every unit here if we really wanted to. Oh no, the Vipers! Not if they get sniped. But it doesn't even matter because they dealt with every single disruptor. Finally, one goes off, but you need 2 Purification Novas to kill a lurker, not 1. And GG gets called. Ryu takes game number 1. I'm looking at the chat. Eyes are important. They are important. What was in his eyes? Tears. The Protoss tears are real. Feels bad, man. Depends if you dare to open them. True, true. Oh, there we go. Getting ready for our next game. And we'll see if Tiratuga has something else in store for us here. Again, last game was a little bit wonky. You know, with that timing with his Immortals, with the lack of Twilight Council upgrades. But we'll see. We'll see what he has in store for us. Oh. And thank you so much, Sub, for resubbing for three whole months. Thank you so much. He says, much love to everyone. Hope you get a joy with this nice cast. Thank you. Thank you, Sub. We appreciate the support. And again, I hope to see you again in more of these tournaments, in Sentimiento Latino, in Copa Hyperion. Of course, everything leading up to DreamHack Summer. I hope you do well. And I look forward to seeing you improve. I look forward to it. But that is enough about that, because we are still in our series, and spawning in the top right hand corner of Hardwire LE, we have the Peruvian Protoss player representing himself and his own clan. It is Tiratuga. Spawning in the bottom left hand corner of Hardwire LE, we have the Peruvian Zerg player, the best Zerg in all of Peru, one of the best Zergs in all of Latin America, representing the CranKy Ducklings. It is Ryu. And these are exciting times. Of course, when talking about all of these nations, we have to bring up Nation Wars. Nation Wars has been announced. I believe currently it's around 50% funded, so we're halfway there. And if Nation Wars becomes a thing, some of these players are going to be competing in it. Ryu, I have to touch on this. He does have dual citizenship. He is a native-born Peruvian person, Peruvian, but currently he does live in Italy. He's been living and studying in Italy for a couple of years now. So because of that, he does have dual citizenship, both Peruvian and Italian. And from what I can tell, I believe he is the second best player in Italy, second best to Raynor. So if Nation Wars was a thing, I imagine, Ryu has competed in Nation Wars and played with Raynor before, in years past, so he would probably represent them again there. Oh. If he wanted to, he could probably represent Peru. I'll be honest, if he wanted to, I would say he's the best player from Peru right now, so he could do that if he wanted to. But, you know, would you really give up a chance to play with Raynor? Probably not. Probably not. When it comes to the Peruvians, I kind of want to say the best players in Peru right now are Zions and Chaos Fate. They're both respectively the best Terrans and Protoss players. But Nation Wars is more of a popularity thing, and I know Cats is very popular internationally. So if he signed up, he would probably be a part of that. Who his teammate would be is a little bit up in the air. I'm not too sure. I'm not too sure who Cats would pick, as there are only going to be 2 players representing each country in the next Nation Wars. Not three, like in seasons past. But yeah, definitely something to look forward to. I know I'm definitely going to be watching once it comes around. I know maybe I'm getting ahead of myself. I'm like, oh yeah, it's going to be funded. Hopefully it'll get funded. Of course. Only with the power of the people of the StarCraft community will Nation Wars be a thing. And we'll get there. We'll get there. Do not worry. Meanwhile, the openers so far have been pretty standard. We had Hatchcast Pool from Ryu. He dives in with his Overlord, and he will indeed scout the opener. Does confirm the Stargate, as well as that first Oracle. And this is where I have to wonder, okay, Tiratuga, he had a little bit of miscontrol in game 1. He lost his first Oracle relatively quickly. Is he going to try and do the same build, but a little bit more refined? You know, was he a little bit nervous? Is he going to try and shake it off? Did he have some tears in his eyes? Like, you know, is he like, look, I know I lost, but I also know that I can do better, and I'm going to try better, and I'm going to execute the build with a little bit more perfection and prove that, hey, I can pull this off against Ryu. Personally, I hope so, because I know he's a good player. But the problem is that, again, typically at this level of play, you don't want to be doing the same thing 2 games in a row against a player like Ryu. We'll see as the second Oracle does come out. And, oh, he goes 2 Oracle into a Void Ray. And into a Forge. Mate, we're seeing Skytoss flourish before our eyes. Oh boy. Meanwhile, the 2 Oracles are across the map, beelining it straight for the 3rd base. Spore is already there. Queens are already in position. Oh, the Oracle's already taking a lot of shield damage. And even some hull damage. And in the end, they get very little done. They don't get a single kill on a drone. They also don't get into the main base to scout. I mean, there's nothing to scout, sure, but again, Tiratuga is still in the dark. Meanwhile, that Overlord, with Overlord speed, does dip in again and also confirms the follow-up Void Ray. He also confirms the 2nd Stargate, so now he knows it is going to be double Stargate Void Ray. Ryu, I believe, even saw the researching cybernetics core, so Ryu should be well aware of what's coming his way, and he should be working on those queens. And that is why we see queens in production. We already have plenty on the map. We should be seeing the spores reposition. It's hard to say though. There are oracles, so there is value in having the spores in the mineral lines. At the same time, once the oracles get dealt with, they should be repositioned to help deal with those void rays. What's interesting though is that I believe we still don't have too many. We still only have 2 voids. And we don't have any more in production. Okay, there we go. I was like, what is taking so long? Tiratuga doubles down, he throws down a 3rd Stargate and a Fleet Beacon, which is fine. It looks like he wants to save his resources and go straight into Carriers or Tempests, so he's not wasting anything on Void Rays at the moment. It does mean that if he got attacked, he would just die, because he just doesn't have anything. So this is a very greedy move, but again, he is getting away with it. In general, Ryu is relatively passive as a player. So despite having very little supply, Ryu was focusing a lot more on expanding, taking all of his gases, droning up, making queens, and taking up once again into hydras, into a hive. Oh boy, so we're seeing greed meet greed in a way. And unfortunately, Tiratuga isn't taking full advantage of that. Despite the fact that his opponent isn't being too aggressive, he's still not trying to take a 4th base, for example, even though Tiratuga has more than enough minerals. We see another scout. Ryu goes in, he confirms carriers are on the way, Fleet Beacon is done. This is probably the best thing about Ryu in every single matchup. In every single matchup, he is always on point with his scouting. He's always aware of what his opponent is doing, or he tries to be, I should say at least. And Ryu's just getting ready. Creep spread is insane. Hydras are coming out. Infestors are on the way. Hive is on the way. By the time Tiratuga gets these carriers out, like, Ryu is looking to be ready. Oh boy. And this is Ryu at his scariest. So we'll see. As Ryu is starting to push out a little bit, again, testing the waters. I don't believe he invested in pathogen glands. He didn't. Interesting choice. Because of that, it's going to take that much longer for these infestors to gather energy. They don't start with enough for a fungal. So that's a little bit worrisome. And I don't think we want to really fight before we have Vipers, especially because Disruptors are already in production. Going Hydras like this, it's so risky to try and pull off without those Vipers. We saw how valuable they were in the last game, where basically every single Disruptor was abducted. Oh god, this is what I was talking about! Thankfully, Tiratuga wasn't paying attention. There's a world out there where one Nova comes out and almost every single Hydra dies. Jesus Christ. Ryu was playing with fire. We need to back on up. Oh, and those Vipers are on the way. We even have a couple of Evo chambers on the front lines. This is a great move that Ryu does. Obviously, it means that whenever he's fighting and whenever the Vipers run out of energy, they can just back off a little bit, fall back to these Evo chambers, and suck on that energy. Oh. And what about Baby Marine? Baby Marine is good. I'm pretty sure Raynor is currently stronger than Baby Marine. I could be wrong. I'm not too sure on the MMR of Baby Marine, but I'm pretty sure Ryu is higher. But you're correct in saying that. So a fun fact for Nation Wars, the captain picks his partner. So Rainer would probably choose his brother if he got voted in, and Rainer would get voted in actually. So that's a good point. That's a good point in the chat. Meanwhile, out comes the Skytoss army, and oh, it gets spotted. Ryu's gonna turn around. His Vipers are full of energy. His Infestors are full of energy. There are only 2 Disruptors. I don't know if you want to be pushing this deep into creep. Oh god! Oh, the Nova doesn't go off. Neither Nova goes off, and this is what I was worried about. 2 Disruptors, mate? You push out with 2 Disruptors, you're insane. Ryu was maxed out. Ryu was waiting for the army, and he just swallows everything up, and there's almost nothing left. Jesus Christ. Sure, there are stasis wards, but they're about to run out. There's 1 more Disruptor up. Ooh, and a pretty decent shot goes off. But we needed that earlier, and we needed 2 more of those. Oh god, the carrier once again. Oh no. Ryu, he just rolls over all of this again. This is what he's all about. More carriers get abducted. Purification levels are going up. We even have some microbial shrouds. Unfortunately, oh my god! The Vipers are out of energy. They cannot abduct any longer, and 2 amazing shots just went off. Is this enough? Can Tiratuga hold on? It looks like he just barely will. Sometimes 1 is all it takes. That's how powerful these Disruptors are. To be fair, Ryu does have a massive bank. He is remaxing. And he is regathering that energy with his Vipers. There they are. Sucking on that gas. But, like, look at, like, so many carriers were sniped. 4 carriers and 4 Disruptors. Any kind of momentum that Tiratuga wanted is completely gone. Oh no! Jeez, every time. It's always so close. Decent feedbacks on the Vipers, but again, there's just not enough on the ground. If Tiratuga was just a little bit more patient, there was no reason for him to push him to creep. He wasn't maxed out. He was like at 170 supply. And the madman just dove right in. When the power of Protoss is patience, shield batteries, cannons, slowly taking bases and fighting with your overcharge. Tiratuga just a little bit too overeager. And with that, this is his army. 1 Archon. And 3 carriers without interceptors. Ay, ay, ay. Do you have another? Oh god, we do have another Nova. Oh, it just barely doesn't go off. The focus fire is insane. I get nervous every time. But it looks like there are just too many Hydras. Ryu at this point is just rallying everything across the map. And GG gets called. Ryu will take the series 2-0. Oh. GG. Mate, all those purification overs giving me a heart attack, man. It's too much sometimes. It's too much.